Through the ages, many questers, archaeologists, and adventure seekers alike aim to locate and unearth one of history's most coveted relics, the Holy Grail, that divine symbol of miraculous healing and immortality. Countless tales and movies have been made about the elusive search for this priceless artifact. There have been many theories as to where it could be, but one prevalent myth is that the precious chalice used by Jesus Christ is right here, in Glastonbury Tor. But that's not all that's concealed down there. Legend has it that deep under Glastonbury Tor lies the body of none other than the historical rock star himself, King Arthur, the very same sovereign who had searched his whole life for the Holy Grail. Sounds fantastical, doesn't it? Let's soon find out as we dig deep into the hallowed grounds of Glastonbury Tor and discover if it truly holds the key to two of history's most unsolved mysteries. Here's to history. We're glad you could join us for some fascinating facts about the whereabouts of the Holy Grail and King Arthur's resting place. We hope you'll like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more entertaining history lore. In the heart of England, shrouded in myth and legend, lies a place of profound spiritual significance, Glastonbury Tor. This ancient conical hill with 7 roughly symmetric terraces in Somerset has intrigued for centuries. The Old English word Tor refers to a bare rock mass surmounted and surrounded by blocks and boulders. More than 2,000 years ago, the lowlands surrounding the Tor would have still been flooded by the sea, making the 518 feet high Tor look like an island. In the late 7th to early 8th centuries, Celts were already recorded to live in the region. These pagan Celts believed that the Tor was a sacred site inhabited by fairies. At the top of the hill, they would perform rituals to appease the Tor's otherworldly dwellers. But how would the Celts been able to climb up the Tor when it was still an island in the middle of the vast sea? It's been said that during low tide the isle became a peninsula, thus accessible by land. It's also believed the 7 terraces circling around it were hewed to serve as a maze that would guide pagan pilgrims up the sacred hill. Many centuries later, the landscape of Glastonbury Tor drastically changed just as much as the people inhabiting the lowlands down below. The pagan Celts would soon dwindle in number as the Christians moved in. Right around the time, the water around Glastonbury Tor dried up and the island integrated with the lowlands. Today you'll see that at the peak of Glastonbury Tor is St. Michael's Tower, a remnant of what used to be a Catholic stronghold in the 14th century. So how did the Tor turn from being a pagan fairy playground to a holy Catholic sanctuary? This is the part where fascinating fact meets fantastic fable, so buckle up. Before we continue, let's rewind a millennia and a few hundred years further back. Meet Joseph of Arimathea, the man who asked Pontius Pilate for Jesus' dead body so they could bury him properly. Old texts surmise that Joseph was a wealthy disciple of Jesus as well as his mother's uncle, who buried Jesus' remains in a tomb that belonged to him. It was also said that while Jesus was still on the cross, Joseph drew blood from his side using a cup. Not just any cup actually, but this cup, the same chalice Jesus used in the Last Supper, also known as the Holy Grail. Many years after Jesus' death, Joseph fled persecution and traveled further northwest, settling in Glastonbury Tor with some followers. Joseph brought the Holy Grail with him for safekeeping. Lore has it that upon their arrival, Joseph struck the earth with his staff and then bam! A thorn tree sprouted from the ground the next morning. It sounds quite unreal, but we've learned that this species of tree is not native to Britain. The thorn tree actually originates from the Middle East, adding to credence to the lore that Joseph might have really made it out here. After the miraculous sprouting, Joseph of Arimathea was convinced that this was the perfect site to build a church, so he set up what's purported to be the very first Christian monastery in the British Isles. As for the Holy Grail, stories have been passed down that the chalice had been buried within the grounds where the original monastery used to stand. A famous legend recounts that the Holy Grail is buried deep inside the Tor, where a spring now known as Chalice Well is believed to flow from. Fueling the speculation further is the fact that the water that flows from the Chalice Well has a reddish tint. Oddly enough, just like human blood, the water gushing from the Chalice Well also coagulates and is warm. Excavations have been made around the site through the years but have not yielded any cups of any kind. Regardless, the faithful believe that somewhere deep within the bowels of Glastonbury Tor lie the miraculous cup of Christ, safely hidden for the ages, waiting to be found by the one worthy of its possession. From among those who relentlessly pursued the Holy Grail, one stands out the most: King Arthur. King Arthur's quest for the Holy Grail was a central theme in medieval Arthurian tales. It was said that finding the Grail would bring peace, prosperity, and eternal life to the realm. The quest for the Holy Grail is often depicted as a perilous journey filled with trials and tribulations. Knights must overcome dangerous obstacles, confront evil forces, and prove their worthiness to possess the sacred chalice. King Arthur's lifelong quest to find the Holy Grail was never fulfilled, but fate surely dealt him a playful hand. Legend says that, as he lay dying, King Arthur was brought by the 9 fairy queens to the Isle of Avalon, the same place where his sword, Excalibur, was forged. The Isle of Avalon was where King Arthur breathed his last and where his body was laid to eternal rest. If you recall, we said earlier that 2,000 years ago, the lowlands surrounding Glastonbury Tor were still submerged, thereby giving the Tor the appearance of being an island circled by a vast lake. Many historians and scholars suggest that when author Geoffrey of Monmouth chronicled King Arthur's tales in 1138, the Isle of Avalon might have actually been Glastonbury Tor, when the plains were still underwater. One striking proof for this elaborate theory was the account of priest and historian Gerald of Wales. He narrated how the monks in the Glastonbury Abbey in 1911 discovered a hollow log with the 2 bodies inside, along with a lead cross that bore the inscription, "Here lies buried the renowned King Arthur, with Guinevere, his second wife, in the Isle of Avalon." The original lead cross has since disappeared, if it ever was real, but a sketch of it was made that survived. As for King Arthur and Queen Guinevere, it was said that their bodies were soon entombed inside the Abbey Church, which even King Edward I and Queen Eleanor of Castile got to see in 1278. Sadly, 200 years later, King Henry VIII ordered all Catholic monasteries and convents destroyed in Britain during the Reformation, and one casualty who bore the brunt of this order was the Glastonbury Abbey. However, if indeed it were true that King Arthur was entombed just in Glastonbury Abbey, then he may have finally completed his quest, laying in rest not too far from where the Holy Grail was said to be buried. Today, Glastonbury Tor continues to be a popular attraction for tourists and locals alike. While Glastonbury is now more known as the site of the world's largest performing arts festival, there are still many who remain attached to its folkloric past. As we delve deeper into the secrets surrounding Glastonbury Tor, we're reminded of the enduring allure of the fables that give the sacred site life. Our journey through the enigmatic resting places of the Holy Grail and King Arthur has been a winding one, full of twists and turns. As we reflect on all the mysteries, we're left with more questions than answers, but that's what makes these legends live through the ages.
You have chosen wisely.
Thanks for watching this expedition to the mythical world of Glastonbury Tor. So, here's to history. We're excited to bring more captivating history topics, so hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to be in the know. See you next time.